Hello everyone and welcome to what very well could be the best game that was played in the 22nd European Team Championship. Now the reason I say could be, and there is a title in the, well, no title, there is a question mark in the title, is because of Dubov's game. But Dubov's game, I'm gonna let you decide which game is better, and then we're gonna decide together whether we're gonna keep the question mark in the title or we're just gonna remove it. So without further ado, Alexey Shirov needs no further introduction, faces Swedish international master Jonathan Westerberg, and it's best if we just dive straight into it. And if you haven't checked it out already, the first thing you will see in the description below is a link that will take you to Grandmaster Eugenio Torre singing a beautiful song for Bobby Fischer and Fischer Random. So do check it out if you still haven't. Now, getting back to the game, Shirov opens with d4. With d5, now comes c4, and here c5, the Austrian defense, something very rarely seen in top-tier tournaments. Out of elite players, Shahriar Mamedyarov is known to play it from time to time in Blitz and Rapid. He never played it in Classical, to my knowledge. Once played it against Magnus Carlsen. He drew a game against Magnus in the St. Louis Rapid tournament, but then again he used it against Richard Rapport in Blitz game, and then he lost. But people do play it. So okay, c captures on d5, we have queen captures on d5, and now knight to f3, developing, guarding the d4 pawn. We have c captures on d4, and here, for example, in the Carlsen-Mamedyarov game, Carlsen captured on d4. Like we said, that game ended in a draw. But that's not how Shirov plays. He goes knight to c3, just developing with a tempo, and now the queen has to move. We have queen to a5, just attacking, well, basically pinning the attacked piece, and now knight captures on d4, removing the pawn. We have knight to f6, and now bishop to d2, threatening some, well, not so nasty discoveries, as for the moment there aren't any. So e5, attacking the knight, and now knight d to b5, and here you have to be very careful. There is a very concrete threat here. For example, if black is careless, play something like bishop e7, wants the castle, just knight d5 wins the game on the spot. Well, the queen is under attack, and also there is the threat of just knight to c7, as both knights are now covering that square. So even if you capture here, you still get knight c7 check, and you lose the queen. So you already have to be very careful. Now, there are some games that reached this position. Knight to a6 is a known move here, which covers the c7 square. Also, queen to b6 is a known move, just getting the queen out of the nasty discoveries. But here we have bishop to b4 by Westerberg, and it is a new move in the position. So already, as of move 8, we have a completely new game. Not like as of move 2, as it's not Fischer Random anymore. And here, like I said, bishop to b4 is a new move, but it's not a good move. So feel free to pause the video and try to figure out why it's not a good move and what Shirov played here, while I give you a couple of seconds. For those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on already punishing such an early move. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it's a3. a3, the point being, if you move the bishop back and there is no good square for the bishop, knight to d5 again will win the game. For example, wherever you move the bishop, you can't go to d6 to guard c7 because the knight guards that square. So here, bishop captures here, but now you no longer guard d6. So first, knight to d6 check by Shirov. King to e7, and now bishop captures on c3, attacking the queen. So here we have queen to d5, and it seems like black is out of the woods. Next move, he's going to trade queens. You don't really have a choice, otherwise you're going to lose the knight here. So once again, Shirov finds a brilliant attacking move, which is bishop to b4. And now you just have to marvel at this position. It's just a beautiful position because pretty much, well, not pretty much, nothing works in this position. Just to give you an example, if you trade queens here, it doesn't help you. It doesn't alleviate the attack. For example, queen captures, rook captures. Now you're still threatening knight captures bishop with a discovered check, which would just win material. So let's say you try to move the king, king e6. Now you get e3. The threat is bishop to c4 check. So where's the king gonna go? For example, whatever you play, knight c6, you just get bishop to c4 check, and now after the king moves, you can't go here, the knight covers f5, so you have to go back, and now you get, for example, knight f5 check, king to e8, and knight captures on g7 is mate. The bishop covers all of these squares, and the rook covers the d file. So just a short example of how things can go very wrong if you trade queens here. On the other hand, if you try and run away from all the nasty discoveries, let's say you try running away immediately with king to e6, it doesn't work. White plays queen to c2, and now again you're just threatening to capture a piece. There's a double attack on the bishop now, and also you're covering the e4 square. E4, just e4 followed by bishop to c4 just wins the game on the spot. So here you could go bishop d7, but just e4, and now whatever you do, let's say you try queen to c6, you offer a queen trade, but queen b3 check. And now after the king moves, you're just gonna go queen captures on f7 with check, king's gonna move, king to d8, and now bishop to b5. This is complete madness. So whatever you play here, queen to b6, you could move the queen, now queen captures on g7, now everything is hanging. The rook is hanging, the knight is hanging. It's just over. This rook is coming to d1. It's game over. And after bishop to b4, you could try running away in a different direction, for example king to d7, but then it is just queen to a4 with check. And now if knight to c6, rook d1, again you will get some nasty discoveries after the queen moves. Or if you try queen to c6, so you would maybe trade queens, now you get queen to b3, again going for the f7 square. And now after black blocks once again, now you play queen to g3, threaten g7, and also rook to d1. So you cannot defend against everything. Whatever you play, knight c6, rook to d1 is coming, and that's game over. You either move the queen and face nasty discoveries, or you block with the knight, but then you get e3, just attack the pinned piece, knight c2 with check. It's a bit of a long line, but in the end it all works out for white. King e2, and now there are no moves for black here. You could try to give up the queen for some material here, but after all is said and done, let's say queen e5 captures, there's just nothing to do. You're gonna bring your king to f3, bring the bishop into the game, bring the rook into the game, and it will be an easy victory for white. So here there's no easy move for black, and it's only move 12. So really amazing stuff. So here Westerberg found a way to continue. He played knight to c6, developing, attacking a bishop, and also saying, okay, you grab this with a discovery, but how is your knight getting back into the game? And this is exactly what happened. We have knight captures on c8 with check, king to e6, and here we reach the celebrated position of this game. If you follow any big website on Twitter, you probably saw this, but if you don't, feel free to pause the video and try to find the only winning move for white in this position. Again, while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who found it, congratulations, you are a natural born attacker. It's just beautiful stuff, you know, Mikhail Tal stuff. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it's g3. Yes, that's the move. That's the only winning move for white. And now, whatever you try, it simply doesn't work. The threat is bishop to h3. If you allow bishop to h3 check, it's game over. So basically, you have to ask: can I capture the rook? Is it a too expensive rook maybe, or do I trade queens first? But even trading queens doesn't help you. Still, there is no defense against bishop to h3. Just whatever you play. Let's say capture this for some reason, all of the squares are covered. Bishop covers dark squares, and this bishop covers the light squares. So the king has no squares. You're gonna have to start giving up material. Rook d6 check is an option after king moves f3. It's just very quickly the black king is getting checkmated. So after g3, it's not an option. The only good way to prevent bishop to h3 is to play queen captures on h1, and this is what Jonathan played. So now bishop h3 is impossible because the king is still on e1. But now the queen comes to d6. We have queen to d6 check, king to f5, and now the only good continuation, queen to d3. Point being that the king cannot go back. If you try to repeat moves with the king going back, then white just castles queenside, and the next move you're just gonna play bishop to h3. There's not much you can do about this. And there already is a rook here. You could try playing queen captures on h2, but it doesn't work. Just queen to b3 with check, and not a lot of squares are available to the king. You go king f5. Now you get knight to d6 check. You push the king further down the board. King g6. Now queen to f7 check is coming. King g5, bishop d2 check. You run the king down the board. King to g4, queen g7 check. King to h5, and then queen to g5 will be mate. So not possible to go back with the king. So e4, black has to fully commit here, but with e4, yes, you block check, but you also prevent your queen from getting back into the game. So to get back into the game, you will at some point have to capture the h2 pawn, waste the move, and then somehow get her back into the game using the h file. So here Shirov continues, knight to d6 check, king to g6, and now again the only good attacking move, queen to b5. Threat is queen to f5 check, followed by bishop to d2, as the king will find himself on h5, and it will be over very quickly. So knight to e7, guarding the f5 square, and now queen captures on b7 is possible, but Shirov is not just gonna grab a pawn, so he shifts the knight over to c4. Now he wants knight to e5 check. Again, if the king moves to h6, then bishop to d2 is deadly. So knight to c6, just going back, covering the e5 square with the knight, and only now queen captures on b7. So now the knight is threatened. We have knight captures on b4, and now first knight to e5 with check, covering the f7 square as well. King to f5, and now calmly recapturing a piece. A captures on b4. There's no rush because Shirov is inviting Jonathan to capture on e5, so to go for rook to a5 check, it's a forced mate here. King to e6, queen c6 check, and now you just run the king the other way. Rook e5 check, king d8, now you go queen d6 check, king c8, rook c5 check. Here, check, you go back, and queen to c7 will be mate. So the king cannot capture the knight on e5, so it's an excellent outpost for the knight. With a5, now hoping to get the DAA rook into the game, but now queenside castle is very interesting, but also very complicated. I'm just gonna mention it as it does look nice, but you have to calculate after rook ac8 check, king moves, and now queen captures on h2, preventing bishop to h3. You have to find queen b5, and now it's still a very complicated position. White is winning here. But Shirov finds a simpler way without actually going for this castling. He plays knight captures on f7. So what do you play here? Your rook on h8 is under attack. You can't just give back material to get back into the game, because you are no longer up material. I mean, so we have rook h to f8, and now comes rook to c1. Now introducing this rook into the game as well. We have h6 by black, hoping to hide the king over to h7, but now knight to d6 with check. King to g6, and now rook to c7. Going for rook captures on g7. We have knight to h5, blocking the g7 pawn, and now another excellent attacking move, f3. Just not allowing the queen to keep an eye on the e4 pawn. So now queen captures on e4 with check is the threat, not allowing the black king to escape. So here, even if you capture, the queen just comes here and checkmates the black king. Not right away, but very quickly. For example, if you do this, check, king goes here, h4. There are no moves. Black will have to give up the queen. So after f3, we have king to h7, just hoping to somehow hide that king. But queen captures on e4 with check, king to g8, and now queen to d5. Just giving a check, preparing to pick up the knight on h5. King h7, now queen captures on h5. And now, after things settle down a bit, it's actually white who's up material. White has a bishop and a knight for a rook, and it might be playable for black if black had any moves, but black doesn't have any moves. So black played rook to f6, trying to get the rook into the game with tempo. The knight is under attack, but now knight to e4, attacking the rook, rook to g6, and now queen to f5. Now the rook is pinned here. You cannot move the king, so here you don't have a lot of good moves. Again, you could everything is too slow. If you try to bring the queen into the game by queen captures on h2, just rook c6, you're not gonna do too well there. There will be no way to defend your rook. And on the other hand, what else can you play? So rook to a6 was played, trying to defend this rook, preventing rook to c6, and also maybe hoping to unpin, but it's never really a realistic idea, as this rook can always go back to c8 with check. So here, Shirov just played h4, and it was in this position on move 33 that Jonathan Westerberg resigned the game, as there is no good defense against h5. Here, Shirov will just attack the pinned piece, and that's all there is. You could try something like to unpin, but we already said just rook c8 checking, has to go back again. h5 just wins the rook, so it's pointless. So after h4, Westerberg resigned the game, and a beautiful victory for Alexey Shirov, who is always, whether he wins or loses, the game is always interesting, as you saw here. So I can't really, I mean, in my opinion, it's a better game than not a better game than Dubov played, but to me it's more aesthetically pleasing than the one Dubov played, as Dubov had a mate in 13. It's a forced mate and you have to find it. But here it was just all of these variations were, it was impossible to calculate all of them. They were just insane. But they were, unique moves. Shirov found them, and that G3 was just it was just beautiful. So if you agree, do share in the comments. Maybe we're gonna take the question mark away from the title. If not, maybe it will remain there. We'll see how it goes. So yeah, once again, do check out the link in the description below. Song for Bobby Fischer by Eugenio Torre. It's really beautiful. Do check it out. I would like to thank Ishan Parik, Jose Leitson, Monteiro Ferreira, and Nicholas Reed for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon. Continuing to cover a few more games from the European Team Championship, as we do have to check out the standings, and then we're gonna, probably have our vote on our next big saga. It's hard for me to lower the options, as a lot of you suggested a lot, so I have to short it down to maybe 4 or 5 options, but we are getting there. No worries. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.